back here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1. Matt Hatfield here with you on this December Saturday, and we're joined by a couple of special guests. You know our buddy Coach Charles Hatcher, the Northview Living legend from Sports Inside and Out, sportsinsideandout.com. Go check out the podcast. When legends speak, people listen. And one of them today with us, giving us the keys to the locker room, Leroy Keyes, George Washington Carver, great from Newport News, played in the NFL with the Chiefs and the Eagles, and of course is part of that Purdue Mount Rushmore there with Breeze, Greasy, and Woodson. How's life for you, Leroy?
Right now, Matt, life is, with this coronavirus and everything else going on and the election that was just concluded, it's a little hectic out here in Indiana still because Indiana's a red state. But the bottom line is we're not complaining. We're getting good weather this time of year. Teams are mildly surprised that they're not going into a frozen tundra in the early parts of December. So I think we'll get our Big Ten season in, and hopefully as the NFL continues to flourish, we'll see some great ball games as they wrap up their season.
Coach Hatcher, I'd love to see Leroy go out there one more time and take one to the house, wouldn't you?
Hey, listen, everybody always reminisce of that the nostalgic punt return to the Rose Bowl that signatured his career when he was up for that Heisman Trophy. On the second time around. First time I ever seen one of very few guys, Matt, that came into second choice of the Heisman Trophy 2 times in a row and didn't get it. But listen, in all the fans' hearts here, down in the 757, he is always and will be the greatest football player that ever came, not just out of Purdue, one of the greats of the NFL.
For sure. And Leroy, we're seeing a lot of players from your hometown here in the 757 dazzle here on Sundays. Of course, we know we got one of them as one of the best coaches in the sport with Mike Tomlin out of Denby High School, William & Mary with the Steelers. But you look at Chuck Clark with the Ravens. You look at all over the place. Jalen Holmes with the Vikings from Lake Taylor. Clark played at Kings Fork High School in Suffolk. Even Raven Green from the Packers. He wasn't a big name out of high school from First Colonial in Virginia Beach, but went on to start at James Madison and is helping the Packers, who are in first place. And even Russell Wilson, though he's not from the 757, he started in Richmond's Collegiate High School. So a lot of flavors still across Virginia. And we can't forget about your team with the Chiefs, Derek Noddy, who started at Ocean Lakes High School in Virginia Beach, part of that defensive line.
Well, that's one thing I've always said about the state of Virginia. There's some ball players in the state. Sometimes the recruiters, when they go out recruiting, they think you have to go into Miami or you got to go into Florida, Georgia, other places, Texas, to get the cream of the crop. But I've been preaching Virginia football ever since my last playing days with the Eagles and the Chiefs. There's more talent in the state of Virginia. Just get your scouts down there, guys. There's some ball players in the state of Virginia who go under the radar, but they should be way above the clouds because they can play the game and they play it right and they play it to win, but they play it with respect for the game. And I don't know how much more I should say about the game of football as it is played into Virginia, and I want to call it, whether it's in the western mountain parts of Virginia, whether it's up near D.C., Eastern Seaboard, Tidewater, you name it. There are more than a handful. There are quality ball players throughout the state of Virginia, and I just like to see the country see some of these players more of regulars. Because like I say, you ain't going to get a coach better than Mike Tomlin up in Pittsburgh. But the bottom line is, he knows how to win, he understands the game, and he knows how to teach the game. And that's what I think a lot of people kind of miss out on, seeing someone who is a teacher. Also, he doesn't have to be a great player, but he's a student of the game, and he understands what it's going to take for him and his squad to win on a regular basis. I'm the number one fan for football in the state of Virginia.
Matt, when you hear guys like some of the great connoisseurs of the game and the coaching, as well as Colin said, that the type of IQ ball player which comes out of 757 in Virginia is a little above sometimes more than the rest, because you don't find a whole lot of celebratory antics. You just find some great talent that perseveres their image and brand, like Lawrence Taylor, but these guys are all famous as well. But you can pretty much say that the guys have a great, as Tomlin said one time, Leroy, they have a great basics IQ for football and professional sports. that speaks within itself, because unlike these other regions, yeah, the guys got great talent, but if talent with no brain to go with it sometimes doesn't make any difference. So I think that Virginia represents not only through basketball, other professional sports, just as within the top echelon as any key region in the country.
So true, Coach. So true.
And one of them with us here, Leroy Keyes out of George Washington Carver and Newport News, went on to star at Purdue and, of course, played in the NFL with the Chiefs and the Eagles. Our guest, along with Coach Charles Hatcher of Sports Inside and Out, here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1. And I want to get your take on a couple of Big Ten topics before we go to Leroy. But in terms of the NFL here, what's most fascinating you right now? Is it, can Pittsburgh hold off one of your old teams in the Chiefs for home field in the AFC? And remember, only one team gets the bye this year, not the customary two for the postseason. Is it the who's going to emerge in the NFC least or NFC East division? And is it something with, say, Green Bay or Seattle or even New Orleans? No Breeze right now, but they're still humming. What's kind of, I guess, captivating you the most right now here as we go into a week number 13 in the NFL?
Well, the whole season has been a kind of a question mark. And until Ron Fitzpatrick decided, I've been out here in the war game long enough. It's time for me to turn the keys over in the new Chevy down here in Miami over to Tua. I'm not seeing Tua in the Miami Dolphins is going to shock Pittsburgh or shock Kansas City or Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers with his experience. Mahomes has already shown that he is a cut above. Russell is going to be Russell. But I think the team that's going to shock everybody right now, I hate to say it like this, but I got to be honest. The Buffalo Bills are playing some superb football right now. If they keep maintaining the way they're playing, Pittsburgh better watch out. Kansas City better watch out. New Orleans Saints better watch out. Green Bay better watch out. Because right now, I don't see a team in the NFL playing with the consistency of the Buffalo Bills. Right now, I would have to, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was a betting man, I'd put my money right now on the Buffalo Bills.
Really?
They don't seem to have any major kinks right now, and they're playing quality football game in and game out, and they're not waiting on teams to help them out. They are taking advantage and doing their own thing. They trust in each other. They trust in their coaching staff. They trust in management. The Buffalo Bills are going to make the city of Buffalo very happy come Super Bowl week.
That's an interesting one, Leroy. And I tell you what, being a Cardinals fan, I can sit here and tell you their offense is for real. They've got some really good parts on defense. They were a Hail Mary, or I should say a Hail Murray pass away from winning 5 in a row here going into this game with San Francisco. And they have an opportunity coming up on December 13th, assuming that game gets played. And we all know everything's up in the air with COVID. But against Pittsburgh, they could kind of get the nation's attention in that type of spot, but they are kind of flying under the radar because there is so much attention on the Steelers and the Chiefs with Mahomes and the Ravens with Lamar and some of these NFC teams with some big-name quarterbacks with the likes of Rodgers and Wilson and Breeze. But Bills are kind of flying under the radar right now with a record of 8-3.
Well, Kyler Murray has shown that he's capable of leading the Cardinals to wherever they have to go. But when reality starts kicking in, like we stated earlier, right now we don't know how this thing is going to unfold as the season continues. That you could go into your locker room, coach is sick, someone else in the administration is sick, and half your locker room is sick. And now all of a sudden you're sitting there saying, what happens if Kyler Murray goes down? Is his backup really ready and able to step in and say, I'm going to compete against the Kansas City Chiefs with a Mahomes? Breeze, as far as I'm concerned, is out for the rest of the season. I don't see anybody coming back from 11 cracked ribs, standing under the center, taking snaps and throwing the football downfield with some of the games they have remaining on their chart. Hill may be the man, James Winston may be the man, but the bottom line is Josh Allen is still standing. He's making plays with his feet, he's making plays with his arm, and he's trusting his supporting cast. When you can get those things going, Kyler Murray goes down, we don't know how far the Cardinals will go. Roethlisberger can't get hit on that elbow again because I don't think the backup quarterback in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin said, I have confidence in him, but unless Big Ben is under center, I see a different type of Pittsburgh Steelers football team. Mahomes, God knows, Andy Reid would probably have a connipio fit if he was to get hit and couldn't get back up and finish the game out, or he's done for the season. And quite naturally, I've been telling Charlie in and out, Matt, for the last 5 years, the key to the NFL championship is always, can I keep my quarterback afloat for a full season? If my quarterback goes down, my team goes down. You got to be able to hit a wide open wide receiver if you're the backup quarterback. So, but again, I'm thinking if I look at the coronavirus, the way it's running, I'm looking at the letter P. Keep an eye out, make sure nobody in your locker room, in your organization is testing positive, because it can affect the outcome of every game your team participates in from this point, from game 13 to 17.
You know, how crazy is the Big Ten here, Leroy? We're waiting to see if Ohio State will have the number of games necessary for the college football playoff, and kind of the consensus is right now they're one of the 4 best teams along with Notre Dame and Clemson and Alabama. But your league in general, I mean, your school, Purdue, every game's been decided by 7 points or less. Northwestern's a huge surprise. They lose to Michigan State this past weekend. Indiana's a big surprise when they lose to the Buckeyes, and their quarterback now's out for the year, though Tom Allen's done a really good job with them, and they have great receivers there. And then the real disappointments, Michigan and Penn State, Harbaugh and Franklin. I don't know which guy's going to be out of town sooner. They both have been major, major disappointments.
Big time. You know, Matt, it's one of those things, again, where we always holler the word parity. I think Tom Allen down in Indiana finally got some players in his stable until they had the injury to this young man Penny, who's out for the season now. You have to look at it realistically. Again, who goes down? Your top quarterback. But the bottom line is Indiana said, hey, we have to step up, get the job done. I like what Indiana's doing, but when I look at Penn State, sometimes you come in so highly rated that you forget that you got to play the game. You can't keep reading your newspaper account. You got to go out and actually play the game. Not taking nothing away from the kid Ramsey. I think he's a baller, but the bottom line is this Penn State team that I've seen this year look like a mirage of Penn State teams in the past. When you look at Michigan, I just think somebody just like the name Harbaugh, whether it's in Baltimore or whether it's in Michigan. Because with Lamar Jackson as your starting quarterback, this kid can make things happen with his feet and his arms. But I think Jim Harbaugh is saying, I can do the same thing down here or up here in Michigan, and it's not happening. And so I think I'm going to toss a coin, and I think Harbaugh has already been in the NFL. He may land in the NFL much quicker than James Franklin will land in the NFL. So James Franklin might be on the hot seat more than Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I get the sense too, Leroy, that Harbaugh's better at just kind of grooming it as opposed to building it. Like the college setup isn't, I know he did it well at Stanford, but I don't know that it fits his profile, his DNA like the NFL game does.
Well, you know, I think when you had to sit down and talk to kids, sit in the living room with parents and convince them that Michigan, the big house is the place for your son to be, it's an easier sell sometimes to say going to college park up in no man's land, really. Penn State had always been Joe Paterno territory. Any coach coming in there had to understand that the ghost of Joe still hangs up in Happy Valley. And James Franklin wasn't a highlighted coach at Vanderbilt. He's a good coach, but the bottom line is if you're not getting the players coming out of this, whether it's Pittsburgh area, the Philadelphia area, the parts of Pennsylvania, you look at his roster, you won't see it dotted with a lot of players from Ohio, Michigan, even Indiana or West Virginia. Most of the players are going to come out of the state of Pennsylvania. And right now, James Franklin's team is fondling, and I don't know if there's such a word called fondling around, saying, well, we can turn it on whenever we want to. Those days are gone. They have to now scrap like the lower teams in the conference, the Iowas, the Michigan State, the Purdue's, the Rutgers, the low teams, Illinois, to try to get a win. And in the past, when Penn State walked on the field, you just said, oh, my God, we're going to get this game to them before we even play it. Those days are gone, and now Penn State has to see how it feels to be at the bottom, trying to turn their program around. And we just still don't know yet, Matt, how long this coronavirus is going to impact recruiting. How can you get kids on campus? Yeah. How can you get in family homes to sell your program and get that right guy to help your team get over the hump?
I'll get you out on this one, Leroy, and I appreciate the time. I'm going to ask this to the guy that was the runner-up to the 1968 Heisman Trophy, to O.J. Simpson. All right, Heisman, if you got to take one guy, Leroy, I mean, you got Lawrence from Clemson, you got Jones from Alabama at quarterback, you got Book, Notre Dame, the kid Trask at Florida, Fields, Ohio State. You can go a lot of different directions. It's generally a quarterback. Who's Leroy's Heisman guy today?
Man, that's a loaded question, because I'm the only person in America who thinks that Heisman is so overhyped. Though I was in contention, I would love one day for this thing to look around and see maybe a running back or a defensive end. I mean, I've seen guys play ball so well in the last 30, 40, 50 years of my life, and they didn't even get a sniff. So quite naturally, if I had to look at who is the front runner right now, I'll probably go with Fields from Ohio State.
Okay.
If they get enough games in that it matters to anybody. But I think he has shown great leadership. But the young man down at Clemson, I'm not going to overlook him. But other than that, I would take my choice would be the running back from Clemson, Etienne.
Etienne, okay. And running back that won't get it, but I tell you what, he deserves major props is the kid at Buffalo, that Patterson kid. 409 yards, 8 touchdowns for that kid at Buffalo, huh?
You got to ask yourself the question, man. Who are they playing?
I know. I understand. Kent State, who I know you could run over right now, so I'm aware.
I'm gonna bring John Capoletti back out of retirement. 409 yards, 8 touchdowns. Come on, that's a running back's dream.
It is.
That you can every time you touch the ball, it wasn't like a 2-yard game. It was to the house game. And I mean, this boy should be at home right now with a needle in his arm, trying to get enough fluid in his body for the game coming up next week. Because he got to be one tired individual. 409 yards against a defense that's on anybody's football. That's worse than Pop Warner.
It is. And listen, he couldn't do that in the video game if he tried. But to your point, I don't think he'd get it. It would be nice to see him get an invite, although this year's ceremony is going to be virtual, so it doesn't matter.
Matt, we got to talk again.
Absolutely.
If the same kid turn around and rush for 200 yards next week, then I would say this kid is deserving of anything he gets. But that game was the game where he came out and showcased his God-given talent. You still got to follow the holes, follow your blockers, and make things happen. And he was, I thought Usain Bolt had escaped from an Olympic game and was in a track meet. Nobody was within 10 yards of this guy. He got a brilliant game.
Poor guy's got to share some carries for our 757 native Kevin Marks, who went at Norview High School like our man Coach Hatcher. He's the backup running back who's got 328 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he's saying to Jarrett, come on, let me eat too, my man. So there you have it. There you have it. Well, always a pleasure with the one and only Leroy Keyes, George Washington Carver, great from Newport News, Purdue legend, NFL player with the Chiefs and Eagles, and our pal, Coach Charles Hatcher, Sports Inside and Out. Have a good one, my friends, and we'll keep in touch.
You do like what I do. We'll talk later, man.
Thank you to all our fans now.
Thank you, guys. Take care.